Hello everyone, including Zara. Welcome back to another Batman Miniature Game Battle Report. I was going to say 350 rep, but that's technically not true for reasons we'll go into. Been a little while since the last Battle Report, apologies for that. That was just because we were painting up some new miniatures for a new crew, which in turn needed some contrast paints, which in turn took a month to arrive. So, sorry for that, but we're going to be seeing a Bane crew going up against Teen Titans today as a result of the wait, so hopefully it'll be worth it. It's also going to be the first Battle Report that features the Magic add-on for the base rules. We'll go over all that though in a second. There's a few special new things in place, so apologies if we get anything wrong, but without further ado, let's take a look at the crews and the additional mechanics that are going to be in play. So here is the Teen Titans team, and they are classed as a team, not a crew, which means they have some additional bonuses and some negatives that we'll go over in a second. Being led by Robin, then we have Beast Boy, who can change into 3 animal forms. We have Hawk and Dove, and then we have Raven and Starfire. So if we come over here real quick, these are the rules for the Teen Titans. We'll go over real quickly. We're using configuration 1 from the box, which gives them 1 less inexperience penalty, which we'll talk about in a second. But also, just to point out, this adds up to roughly 440 rep. However, the Teen Titans team has a rule that they forgot to list here. But if you go to Nightwaddle's website and get the team's PDF, which is a free compilation of all the teams and their rules, they have a rule called Pack, and for every 2 Teen Titans they get a rebate on reputation points, essentially. So these are both legal setups. They count as 350 rep crews, even though they both add up to 440. So if we quickly open this up, here is the rules for the teams. Again, other than the rule they forgot to mention, I think. As long as there's at least 2 of them within range, they get Resilient, which is reroll endurance rolls, I believe offhand. Everything to prove, the entire team has the Survivor trait, which means they have a chance of ignoring the first time they're made a casualty. And then this is the negative, the Youngsters one. Essentially they get 4 inexperience points, however because we're using configuration 1, they lose 1 for that. And because the team is being led by Dick Grayson, they lose another 1. So Bane's crew will get 2 inexperience points to give out, and essentially you have to give them to model. More than one model, one model can't take them all, and they lose an action counter for that, unfortunately. So that's the disadvantage. Objective wise, they're taking Riddles, Medical, and also the unique Batbox 1, which is the Trigon Portal. 2 victory points if you control it. Also there's a bunch of Teen Titans around it, you can get bonus points. We'll worry about that if it happens. The negative for this objective though is if the Teen Titans aren't claiming it, 2 of the opposing team get an additional action counter for them to initiate however they wish. So that's an additional negative to be considered, but potentially more points. So because Raven is a magic user, she gets a bunch of different spells. She has her unique one, which is Farseer. Then because she knows the occultism tree, she knows Black Shadows and Curse, and because she's a magic user in general, every magic user gets all the elemental spells, which is Restoration, Magic Bolt, and Magic Healing. We'll go over magic as and when it happens, based on all these spells, but basically any point during her activation she can choose to spend her MP on any spells that add up to the amount. I think she has 4 MP? 3 MP. And just for having certain traits like occultism, I think once per game she can improve her defense by 1, making her defense 5, which is pretty good. So that covers all the new stuff. We'll see it in action. Again, apologies if anything gets done wrongly, but we're learning as we're going. Let's go take a look at the easier to understand Bane crew. And here is the surprisingly large Bane crew being led by Rebirth Bane with the Dreadnought and Elite Ops from that starter box for him. Then a new addition, we have Free Agent Professor Pig and his 3 free Dollatron slaves that are a bit easy to kill, but are meat shields for him and they can get down Mr. President wounds that go on Professor Pig. Then finally, just because there was enough points, we have Gustav Gustafson with his assault rifle. Should point out though, this is technically an illegal list because it comes to 354 rep when standard games are played with 350, allowing it but not buying any extra funding as a result. So it is technically illegal, but it's only 4 points over, so we're going with it. Bane, with his I Will Break You rule, has selected Martial Arts Master, whichever one it is that he can pick for his bonus rule. And objectives wise, they have Titan, Ammo, and Contraband. Let's see what mission we're going to be playing today. So for our mission we got Patrol. I think that's the one we did last time, but whatever. So that's 3 victory points bonus to any team that has a character other than their leader in the enemy deployment zone at the end of the game, and Noise 1 victory point to the first person to land a strike, which we are counting again as a literal thrown punch, not bullets or magic or anything else. Other than that, we have deployment set up. The Teen Titans have all deployed up here. The deployment is 12 and then 12 and then a diagonal. Amongst them is the ammo, the Titan, and there's the contraband for Bane's objectives. And then Bane is over this side of the place. Basically deployed up to the line. There's Teen Titans Medical. The enemy places the Trigon portal, so it has been placed by Bane there. There's Professor Pig and his other Dollatron. And we've got a riddle there, and a riddle there. And as we were panning there, you got a good line of sight of where the sewers and lamps were. Apologies, I meant to say at the start of the video, but I'm choked up with allergies today, so sorry if my voice is a little weak for the commentary of the match. Anyway, Bane has Mastermind, so there is one extra Bane token in the bag. However, the game does still go to 6 turns. So even though there's 7 tokens in the bag, it just means Bane is more likely to get first activation in more than the first turn. So, speaking of which, battle round 1 will be Bane going first. Oh, and at the raise the plan phase, Beast Boy has to pick whether or not he's changing forms or assigning a form. As you saw, he has become his bird form for quick movement in battle round 1. So to get the game started for Bane, this Dollatron activated. I could not honestly tell you which one of the Dollatrons it is because they're all very similar. Either way, he started there, he moved up past the lamp with his 1 movement or 2 movement, and then with 1 attack smacked the lamppost and broke it, plunging this area into darkness. So as we go to the Teen Titans first activation, forgot to mention that the inexperience points were given to Dick and Raven, so they both lost a counter, and for the Bane's crew, the portal gave an extra counter to Professor Pig and Bane. The Bane one was put into movement, as was the Professor Pig one. So Raven activated first, and she was standing roughly there-ish. She used her normal movement to get up to the contraband, at which point she cast Farseer for 1 MP, so in the next activation in the next turn, she can re-roll up to 2 dice rolls of her choice. She then cast Black Shadows, which makes her move an additional 6, which moved her to where you can see her now, and you can only target her if she is within 2 inches, so basically melee only. As you'll see, they have difficulty ratings. The way magic works in this is you roll 2 dice, then you add the willpower and see if they meet the casting criteria. Sometimes you have to take enemy statistics into consideration if you're trying to hurt them as well. So this was difficulty 13, this was difficulty 15. She passed them both with 2 easy rolls. That's her MP used up. Next turn, going to keep that card close by to remember she has 2 rerolls, but Black Shadow has essentially been used up because nobody's getting within 2 inches of her this turn for sure, I think. Back over to Bane. So for Bane's crew, Professor Pig himself activated next, and remember he had an extra movement counter from the Trigon portal empowering him. So he used that movement to get all the way along here into base to base with the riddle. However, he did not have a movement counter left over to solve it, so he's just in base to base with it to solve it next turn. That is a Titan's result, Titan's objective rather, so the result will be -1, but he is in base to base with it. That's the downside of the riddle objectives, as we've talked about before. But anyway, back over to the Titans. Beast Boy activated next for the Teen Titans, and in his hawk form, he has +2 to his movement cap, which puts him at movement 5. So he can move very far. He also had 1 in special, so he could activate Fly. So he was starting down here. He has moved all the way up here, past Raven, behind the scenery here, perhaps ready to go after Professor Pig next turn. Couple of quick activations next. Gustav Gustafson, almost as fun to say, maybe even more fun to say than John Diggle, moved up to back up Professor Pig. He's just the hired goon. And then very quickly back over to Teen Titans. Dove activated and used Fly to get to the far side of the contraband, which she's claiming. Even though it's Bane's objective, it gives out a reward at the end of the turn to the player who controls it, not the owner. So that will be some points at the end of battle round 1 for the Teen Titans. It's now back over to Bane's crew to see what they do. They have got the numbers advantage, so passes could be getting used, but there's really no need so far in turn 1. But over to Bane regardless. Dreadnought Op activated next for Bane, and as you can see he has moved next to the other riddle, but he didn't have enough movement left to solve it either. Bane might be able to make it because he's got good movement and actually still be able to solve it. We'll see if he wants to though. It's potentially possible for the Teen Titans to get over there before it's solved next turn. I guess we'll see. Back over to the Teen Titans. Hawk activated. He's relatively fast for not having any superpowers and has moved up next to Beast Boy. He's an acrobat and he has, I think, 4 movement. No, 3 movement. So he managed to get quite far. Over to Bane again now for their next move. Got a few Bane crew activations now because 2 passes, which are the 2 that the Teen Titans have in total anyway, have been used. This is because there is a sewer grating right at the back of their deployment, and 2 of Bane's objectives are there, so they don't want anything nasty coming through necessarily. So the Dolotron that was there activated, moved kind of roughly around here, pass was used. This Dolotron activated, basically just shimmied to the side to help block the portal. That was his activation. The other pass got used, and the Elite Op has moved up with his assault rifle and did nothing. So now the Teen Titans have to activate, and they've got Robin and Starfire left, and then it is just Bane for his crew for Battle Round 1. So Robin activated next, and as you can see he has not moved very far. He is away from base contact with the sewer, but still touching the ammo just in case Bane decides to be reckless and go through the sewer grating to grab the ammo turn 1. Starfire is left for them to go. That was very specifically because she actually does have 2 dice in attack, should any large gentleman decide to come through the sewers. We will see, though, because Bane's got a decision to make. So to wrap up the final 2 activations of the turn, as you can see, Bane has decided to be very, very risky and teleported through the sewers, popped out there. He can't do anything this activation though. So then it was Starfire last. She has opted to stay where she was. She had 2 in attack. She is very powerful. Her unarmed attacks do 3 stun base, and she shoves targets if she wounds them. Sadly, she was not able to get through Bane's 3 defense that he had sitting on him, so they're still locked in combat, and that brings us to the end of Battle Round 1. So at the end of Battle Round 1, there wasn't any stun or anything to recover. In terms of victory points, the Contraband has given the Teen Titans 1 victory point for just getting a 3 result, which is the Ooh Shiny result, I think. Neither of the riddles were solved this turn by Bane's crew, so they give out nothing. The ammo is being held by Robin, which is Bane's, so it would have been contested if Bane had opted to touch it, but he didn't. The Trigon Portal only gives points to the Teen Titans. The advantage it gives the enemy is they get to place it for 1, and the stat boosts as well. So, fairly uneventful turn 1, the only attempted striking was Starfire. Now we get to see who gets first activation in Battle Round 2, and because of the extra counter in the bag, it's still even 50-50 chance for which crew gets it. Oh, but it is going to be the Teen Titans, and as we move over, Bane is activating one of his Venom doses, so he's going to be stronger, and he has invulnerability 2, so he gets to ignore the first 2 damage he's going to take in the next turn. And Beast Boy is changing forms. Not 100% sure what he's changing to yet, but it will be either the gorilla or the tiger. So Starfire got Battle Round 2 started. She swung at Bane with 4 attacks. He had 3 defense ready, so only 1 got through, so that's 3 stun. However, because of his invulnerability, that actually drops down to just 1 stun. She then moved next to Dick and is forcing Bane to kind of choose which one he goes after on either side of the ammo. So Bane did indeed activate next, and he charged at Robin, seeing him as the easier of the 2 to take out. Did a ridiculously good roll with the damage rolls that actually got through, as you can see there. So that's 2 stun for each of the normal hits, plus the bonus stun for the collateral crit, and also it matched, so he is knocked down, leaving him with not much he can do in retort. But wasn't able to take him out fully, so no victory points given there for a knockout. But going to be hard to recover because Bane is very angry. Beast Boy activated next and hopped over because he's an acrobat. The crates over there charged Professor Pig, did not have enough movement to activate the riddle, but he struck out with 3 attacks against Professor Pig. Professor Pig had 2 defense dice and was able to avoid all damage. He was just dodging under the gorilla's swipes, I guess. So Beast Boy wasn't able to do anything, sadly. He's moved up. He has some ablative health because he's in gorilla form, but not a great result there. Also forgot to mention, but the first punch thrown in the match doesn't have to be successful, and it does have to be against an enemy model, so hitting a lamppost doesn't count. So Starfire in Battle Round 1 flinging a punch at Bane got the Teen Titans 1 victory point, which has been added on and we'll be covering again at the end of the battle round. Back over to Bane's crew now to see what they do next. Professor Pig activated for Bane next. He swiped with his knives at Beast Boy, only managed to do 1 blood, and the gorilla form gives him 4 bonus endurance, so he's still in the form. Then decided to back off because he used up all his defense dice and he's worried about Hawk or Raven potentially reaching him. Moving towards the sewer grating there, just out of danger. Oh, he spent the free movement he got from the Trigon portal to solve the riddle. He got a 6, but because it's not his result, it's -1, so it became a 5, but still gave up a couple of victory points. Back over to the Teen Titans now for their next move. Dove activated next, and from where she was standing, she shot her what they called light projection beams at Bane. Hit with 1, well, it only fires once, but she can fire it 3 times. It's a beam. It did 2 stun, 1 blood to Bane, although Bane is desensitized so he doesn't lose counters, he just gets more and more annoyed. She then moved to the far side of the contraband, so she's still claiming it for the end of the turn, but maybe moving or planning to move towards Robin to heal him, as she is a medic. She's an AoE medic actually, she can heal around her as well as just a single target with the medic trait. So that was it, now back over to Bane. Gustav Gustafson activated next and shot his 5-shot carbine for 1 blood each into Beast Boy, did 2 additional blood, so he's up to 3. The gorilla form has 4 endurance, so he's still in the form. He then kind of shuffled back a little bit, hoping to maybe get another shot off next turn. Raven activated next for the Teen Titans. She moved up 8 and then threw her dark bolts, or whatever they're called, at Gustav Gustafson. Despite making use of her rerolls, she was unable to do any damage with that, so in the magic phase, she cast Magic Bolt. And well, as you can see there, it's difficulty 9, but you also add on the target's defense. Thankfully he's just a henchman, so it's defense 2, so it was very easy to roll over 11 on 2 dice plus her willpower of 8. So he just takes 2 blood straight up, so that's 2 blood on him. She then also recast Farseer to get 2 rerolls next activation again. Elite Op activated for Bane's crew next. He moved backwards a little bit to get into better position because he couldn't quite see Raven or Beast Boy from where he was, which meant his rate of fire dropped to 1. He shot at Beast Boy and he missed, so no additional damage there. Over to the Teen Titans now, who just have Hawk and Robin left, I believe. So I would say the triple X bar, where I'm sure he frequents a lot. Hawk moved up as best he could, couldn't get into range to do anything though, but he's kind of hiding behind the limo on the far end there. Back over to Bane, and the Dreadnought Op activated the riddle, got a 4, it becomes a 3, which is a 0 score result, so that riddle was gone and gave him no points. He then moved up a little bit, perhaps on his way to back up Bane. So now Robin has to do something with his limited counters from how wounded he is, and then it's just the Dolatrons for the turn to end. So after having to spend a counter to stand up, Robin had all of 1 counter left. He used it for a bow strike though, and actually did manage to do 1 blood to Bane, before retreating his 4+1 for being an acrobat into base contact with Dove back there. Starfire is still contesting the ammo, so it's not going to give up points. And then just to very quickly cover the rest of the turn for Bane's crew, the Dolatrons are just kind of backline defense, so they've shuffled. 1 is guarding the medical, and those 2 are kind of trying to block off the way to the portal. And that is it. On to recovery and recap for Battle Round 2. So at the end of Battle Round 2, both Bane and Robin recovered 1 stun each, so Bane's just below half health now, and Robin is at 2 out of 6 endurance remaining. In terms of victory points gained, Dove activated the contraband and got a shiny result again for 1 more victory point, and of the 2 riddles that Bane's team stole, they only got 2 victory points, but that is them on the scoreboard now. As for anything else, nothing scored, no knockouts or anything like that yet. So, as we move into the next turn, Bane is once again using his other Venom dose, so he has he has Invulnerability 2, and is hitting harder again, and Beast Boy is going to change forms so he gets some health back to the Tiger form. I think that covers everything we needed to cover, other than seeing who is actually going to get first activation in Battle Round 3. Shaking the bag, and it's going to be Bane who goes first. So as we're covering Bane's activation, just pointing out, every turn Robin and Starfire have been having one of their action counters sapped away by the inexperienced, and Bane and Professor Pig have been given an extra 1 by the Trigon portal. Anyway, Bane unleashed 6 attacks on, I don't know why I said attacks weird there, on Starfire. Managed to roll 3 1s on the wound rolls, but that didn't matter because she took 6 stun damage. She has 5 endurance plus invulnerability 1, so she is knocked out. That's a free agent knocked out for a bunch of points for Bane. He's now holding the ammo if nobody does anything about it. Over to the Teen Titans for their first activation of Battle Round 3. So even though the Titans want to get revenge against Bane, it's not the smartest move to activate things down there because they're basically safe because Bane's the only one there. So Beast Boy activated, charged forward in Tiger form at Gustav Gustafson, did 2 blood 2 stun with his claws, which took him over his damage cap but with stun damage. So he's not dead, but he is knocked out. So that's a henchman knocked out for a victory point there. Back over to Bane. Professor Pig activated and he went after Hawk this turn, was only able to do 1 blood, and Hawk has Hardened, which turns the first blood taken in a turn to stun, so that's actually 1 stun he's taken instead. He also has Tension, which means now that he has damage on his card, unless it gets healed at the end of the battle round of course, he is +1 to strength and defense, I believe. So he is angry and ready to retaliate. Raven moved up and fired her Dark Blast at the Leop, which did 2 blood to him and also Terror 2, so he lost 2 counters. She then cast Magic Bolt on him and did another 2 blood, so he's on 4, but he's quite tanky. He's got 6 endurance, so he's got 2 left. But Raven's not to be trifled with. She did not do Farseer. Actually, she has the MP, should do Farseer. We'll come back if the spell failed. If you don't hear anything, we'll just assume that Farseer worked, because there's no harm in her trying it, really. So the Leop was going to activate and retaliate, but he doesn't have enough counters left to shoot his guns, so that seemed like a waste. So the closest Dollatron moved into close combat, struck twice, but did not manage to wound. Raven used 2 of 3 defense dice she has allocated to block them. So nothing done there. Back over to Bane, the Teen Titans now, who have Hawk, Robin and Dove left. All the birds. Dove activated next and used the medic trait to heal 2 stun from Robin. She then tried to use her light projection beams on Bane again and sadly missed the hit roll this time, so wasn't able to do anything to him. She's staying where she is though, so she can activate the contraband again at the end of the turn. So to cover a quick activation, the Elite Op activated and is just kind of blocking the way there. Back over to the Teen Titans, Robin activated. He moved to the far side of the ammo to contest it. He has reach on his bow staff. He struck at Bane with 3 attacks and wasn't able to do anything to him, unfortunately, but is at least contesting the ammo. So now it's back over to Bane's crew, and honestly most of the Dollatrons, well, the 2 Dollatrons still to go are just going to stand still. So one of them probably going to waste her turn. It's just Hawk left for the Teen Titans as well, so we'll probably be back with a quick recap of the final activations of Battle Round 3. So to cover the final activations of the Battle Round, these 2 Dollatrons stayed still, as was previously discussed. Hawk over here did 6 stun with his reinforced gloves. Tension really helped get a final hit through, which was great because 6 endurance is exactly how much Professor Pig has, so he is knocked out. That's a free agent knocked out. He then repositioned himself slightly, maybe for line of sight there, and also touching the sewer grating. Over here, the Dreadnought Op moved over, and he is actually kind of fast, so he was able to move into contest range of the contraband, so that's going to give him no points this turn. And that's it, so now on to rest and recovery for this turn. So at the end of Battle Round 3, Hawk did not recover from his 1 stun, which is actually a good thing, because that means tension is still kicked in. Professor Pig did not wake up, so he's still unconscious. Robin recovered 1 stun, so he's down to just 1 stun left in his card. Bane recovered 1 stun, so he's now just got 1 stun remaining on his card as well, along with 2 blood. Starfire woke up with a roll of snake eyes, so she is conscious and just knocked down now on the ground, missing 1, or only having 1 endurance left rather. In terms of victory points gained, both crews took out a free agent for 3 victory points apiece. The Teen Titans also took out a henchman for 1 victory point. Everything else is either just not claimed or contested. So that's going to do it. As we go into the next phase, again, the inexperienced tokens are being given to Starfire and Robin, and the bonus tokens won't be getting given to the same people again because Professor Pig is down, but Bane will definitely be getting 1. We'll need to see who gets the other one. But for now, let us see. Oh, also Beast Boy is staying in his tiger form for now, which means he also gets to skulk at the end of a battle round because he has sneaking, so he's just going to hide himself to make sure he's out of line of sight behind the crate there. Battle Round 4 is going to be the Teen Titans first. Let's see what happens. So to get us started with Battle Round 4, Starfire stood up and attacked Bane. She only got 1 damage through in the end, which did 3 stun to be fair. She then moved with just her basic movement to the other side of Dick there to try and force him to move at least before attacking. We'll see if he decides to go though, because it's over to Bane. Running out of Venom doses has not stopped Bane as he unleashed a staggering 9 stun in total on Robin, knocking him out. Now Robin is a bit weird because he can be both a sidekick or a free agent, this Robin, but he's also the team's leader, so the assumption is he gives up leader victory points for being knocked out. I'm not sure, but that's how we're going to run it, with leader points. So that's 4 victory points I believe. Back over to the Teen Titans. Dove activated next and gave up control of the contraband in order to move into base to base with Robin and Starfire. She used a total of 3 special, 2 to activate the medic trait and 1 for light radiance, which means it affects everybody within 2 inches. It just occurred to me, if Bane is within 2 inches, does it count, or does it say... I'm going to have to read the back of her card real quick, because does it say it affects everybody? When this character uses the medic trait, it affects all characters within 2 inches. All characters. I'm going to assume that it affects Bane. It doesn't specify teammates. So she fired her final light radiance beams and it did 1 blood 2 stun to Bane, but I guess we'll ignore the 2 stun and say that it just did 1 blood because he should have healed for 2 stun because he's within range of our light healing. I can only assume it doesn't specify teammates. So he was going to be on 1 HP remaining, but as it turns out, not quite. He is really hurt though. He doesn't lose any traits because he's got desensitized, but Robin is also awake now, but because he woke up from unconsciousness this turn he doesn't get to act, but he at least is back on his, well, I was going to say back on his feet, poor choice of words because he's on the ground, but he's not unconscious. Back over to Bane. So over the other end of the table, Elite Op activated and shot his full rate of fire at Raven. Needs 4s to hit, 2s to wound. He rolled 3 3s for his hits, so he did nothing, and so has fallen back ever so slightly to hide from the inevitable retaliation. Beast Boy came around from where he was hiding behind that crate there and attacked the Elite Op with his tiger form. Wasn't able to do anything to him this time, unfortunately. Worth pointing out though, the way the Trigon portal works is that any Teen Titans within 4 inches count as claiming it unless the enemy team have a model in base to base. So using at least 1 or potentially more free Dollatron units means that you can just leave them there and they're contesting it. So had that Dollatron not been there, Beast Boy would now technically be claiming the Trigon portal because he's within 4. Also worth pointing out, when Professor Pig is removed as a casualty, Dollatrons disappear. So he's only knocked out right now, so I believe they're still on the field. But if he was to die, that'd be a problem. So quick activation next for the Bane crew. The Dollatron that is fighting Raven activated, attempted to strike her, and was unable to land any hits. They only get 2 attacks, so they're free for a reason, let's put it that way. Hawk activated and took the sewer grating he ended the last activation next to, and popped out right here. Now the medicine is being contested by the Dollatron, so he's not able to do anything about it this turn, but he is getting there. I think he's just outside 4 inches of the portal as well, not that it matters yet, but just for making it clear. So over to Bane again now, who still have the 2 Dollatrons to go. I think that's it, actually, and then just Raven for the Teen Titans, so we'll probably cover all those activations in one final recap. So not in order, but we'll cover the last activations just going quarter circle around the table. The Tomahawk wielding Dreadnought Op opted to stay still just to get points at the end of the turn from the contraband. The base to base contact with the Trigon portal Dollatron had no choice but to stand still essentially. This Dollatron moved around, still contesting the medical though, took some punches, a couple of punches at Hawk, did 1 stun. Over here, Raven did 2 stun to his Dollatron in close combat. She also cast Magic Bolt for 2 blood. They have 6 endurance though, they're pretty tanky, the Dollatrons. So he's still on 2. She opted just to stay there at that point. So, we'll move on to the rest and recovery for this battle round. So at the end of battle round 4, Robin and Starfire recovered 1 stun each. Professor Pig woke up, so he's just knocked down now. Hawk didn't recover any stun, neither did Bane. Victory point wise, the only victory points gained were for the leader KO on Robin. The contraband got a 2, which means nothing, so the Dreadnought Op didn't earn anything for the team. So, even though it's been alternating thus far, statistically now it is more likely that Bane will be getting first activation. Let's see. Yep, Bane will be going first in battle round 5. The same things apply. Again, Raven and Starfire and Robin lose encounters, Bane and now Professor Pig gaining them. So to get the penultimate turn started, Bane activated. He moved around, giving up on the ammo for now, into base to base with Starfire and Dove. Opted just to hit Dove though, did only 4 stun. Of the 6 hits, all of them got through, but then 3 of them missed the wounds. But did get a knockdown, so she's on 2 endurance remaining and knocked down. Opted not to try and kill Dick because it isn't worth the points, plus Starfire has True Love Dick Grayson, which would just make her stronger, and he's trying to avoid that because he's still kind of hurt. So over to Teen Titans now to see what they do. Still staying down here as Dove activated first for the Teen Titans. She moved to the far side of the ammo, forgoing the ability to attack because she had spent her last remaining attack counter on standing up. Used 3 special again to use the medic on Dick, and then anything within 2 inches, and she positioned herself such that Bane is no longer within 2 inches as well. So she healed Dick for 2 endurance, took the 1 endurance off, stun, sorry. The 2 stun off of Dick, 1 stun off of Starfire, and because it affects everybody, she's in the AoE of it, so presumably she also loses 2 of her stun that she just received. Good bit of healing there. Back over to Bane. The Dollatron down here, who is next to Hawk, activated next, took 2 swings at Hawk, and didn't do anything to him. He then shuffled, but is still contesting the basically just to force Hawk to move closer to him and further away from the Trigon portal, should he want to retaliate. This wounded Dollatron activated next. All the Dollatrons have desensitized as well, like Bane does though, so we don't lose counters. Tried to attack Raven this time, did not manage to land anything either. Starfire activated next and tried to hit Bane with 3 attacks and whiffed entirely. Wasn't able to do anything to him, which is pretty annoying. Was hoping to be able to take him out this turn, and it's looking a lot less likely. Bane's Elite Op activated next, and because he's out of ammo, just took some swings with the butt of his gun, managed to do 1 stun to Beast Boy's Tiger form, and decided to stay there to kind of block the way a little bit. So for Bane's next activation, despite having been over there behind the limousine unconscious, Professor Pig had woken up, so now he has taken a Surgraying all the way down here. A bit risky, but he wants to be there, so he can hopefully get some victory points in the final turn. Also going to cover a quick activation for the Teen Titans. Hawk attacked the Dollatron, he moved next to him, did 4 stun plus a knockdown, but the Dollatron's got 2 HP left, so he's still conscious, and as a result is still contesting the medical. So next activation for Bane was the Dollatron next to Trigon Portal, which just stayed still. We moved over to the next Teen Titans turn. Robin spent a counter to stand up, moved into contact with Bane and struck at him with 3 attacks. As you can see, the total damage was just 1 blood and 2 stun. The 2 stun came from one being the crit result for an extra stun, and the other being for his special rule cooperative fighting, I think it's called. So if he's hitting someone who's already in base to base with a Teen Titan, he does 1 additional stun per successful bit of damage, which was exactly enough to take Bane to his endurance cap, so Bane is knocked out, and that is some massive point gain for the Teen Titans right there. Over to Bane now for their final activation, which is the Tomahawk Dreadnought Op, and then it's just Raven and has Beast Boy gone? I think Beast Boy's still got a turn to do as well. So once again, just going to cover the final activations of the turn. Totally forgot the Dreadnought Op, I don't think we mentioned him, but he's staying still for contraband victory points potentially at the end of the turn. Over here, Raven did 2 blood with Magic Bolt again to the Dollatron, which was enough to knock him out. She then moved up a little bit. Beast Boy also swung around and is attacking the Dollatron, contesting the Trigon Portal. Did 1 blood, 1 stun to him, so he's still got 4 endurance. With that, we're moving on to rest and recovery for the penultimate turn. So as we prepare to move into the final turn, one of the Dollatrons recovered a stun. Bane woke up, as did Gustav Gustafson. Right at the end of things, he managed to get back up. There was no other stun recoveries. The Contraband gave out 1 victory point to Bane this turn. Meanwhile, the Teen Titans got 4 victory points for knocking Bane out. They also got 1 victory point for knocking out a Dollatron. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think Dollatrons give points. Need to double check that. I don't remember if they give points or not. So it's a difference of 1 point either way. And normally it would be guaranteed that the Teen Titans are getting final turn, but it's a 50-50 split because of Bane's extra counter in the bag. Let's see who is getting it. It's Bane. Interesting. Let's move into the final turn. So thanks to Mastermind and Bane being allowed to go first in the final turn, he stood up and he has desensitized, so he fights at full strength. He struck at Starfire just because she seemed like the biggest threat down here, and you have to roll a 6 to block this Bane's attacks, and she rolled 2 6s. So in the end, only 2 stun got through to her. In fact, forgot she has invulnerability 1, so it's actually just the 1 stun. Bane then retreated over to the Titan container, just to kind of try and block it in to get some last minute points. So the first activation for the Teen Titans in their final battle round was Beast Boy. He did an amazing 4 blood, 4 stun to the Dollatron, knocking it out. Oh, and to cover what we were talking about at the end of the last battle round, Dollatrons do not give victory points. So that's they did not get 1 for knocking out the Dollatron last turn. They still got the 1 for knocking out Gustav in the turn he got knocked out though. Anyway, so after that he bounced around using acrobatic to get over there behind the portal and is touching it, and he has priority control over it. For now. Professor Pig activated for Bane next. He threw some knives at Dove and failed to hit, and then he retreated next to Bane, again basically just trying to stay alive, because if he lives he's in their deployment zone and he'll get some scenario bonus points at the end of the match. Raven activated next and killed the Elite Op with 1 last magic bolt, doing 2 blood, and he had 2 blood left, so he is a casualty for a total of 2 victory points because he hadn't been knocked out prior. She then moved into contact with the portal and Beast Boy to secure it for some extra points at the end. So we're just going to quickly cover basically the final activations of the game that mattered, because Starfire, Robin and Dove did not give themselves any movement counters, so they can't go to the Contraband and contest it, let alone attack the Dreadnought up. So their goal really was just to knock out Professor Pig, because leaders and models that are KO'd don't count for the scenario bonus points. Robin was able to knock out Professor Pig, who only had 1 health remaining. Over here, the only thing of importance, since Gustav couldn't get anywhere with his limited counters, this Dolotron stood up and contested the medical, and that is it. So it all comes down to the final victory points. Let's see what was earned. So, here we are at the end of the game, and first of all we're going to start with an apology for misunderstanding the Trigon Portal's rules for placement. The enemy crew, so Bane's crew, did get to place the portal. The rule, however, does not say up to 12 inches away from the deployment zone in which it's placed, which is standard for, well, it's usually like up to 8 inches away from deployment for most objective types from your enemy's deployment, so you have to go across the board to get it. Very specifically, the Trigon Portal, of course, says it can be up to 12 inches away from the owner's deployment. So the owner's deployment line is basically kind of like a diagonal here, had to be within 12 of that. So it could not have been hidden all the way over there. It could have been hidden like, say, like here-ish, here-ish, so the Dolotrons could still kind of work their way towards it, but it shouldn't have been easily defended as it was this match. Obviously it doesn't really matter because of the outcome, but to cover the final victory points, in the final turn, Bane got 2 for the Titan, and he got 2 for the Contraband for getting a 5 result on it. As for the Teen Titans, they took out a henchman for 2 victory points in total. They got 2 for controlling the Trigon Portal and an additional 1 for more than one of the Teen Titans being within 4 inches. So that takes us to the tally. Apologies for the cut there, I can't count. Anyway, the Teen Titans scored 19 victory points in total and Bane scored 14. That's on the assumption that Dick Grayson should have given out the leader knockout points. If not, then it would have been 1 less. It's not a huge difference. In terms of the Trigon Portal, now that I realised that it was placed incorrectly, it's less, because it didn't seem very viable for getting points, despite the fact that the more Teen Titans are around it, the more points it generates, with it being so far away and easy to defend and place in an awkward position. Now that I know that it's to be placed in the manner in which it was meant to, that makes it a much more viable option. The Teen Titans in general, very fun crew to play as. They have to use teamwork, otherwise they're not particularly tough, because a lot of them are quite low endurance. They buff each other by being around, and the healing from Dove is very, very effective. As for the Bane crew, again, technically not a valid list because 4 points over, but 4 points between friends, 2 minds. Professor Pig is interesting. He himself is not super useful as anything other than a medic. He was probably a little bit misused. Dolotrons, though, because they don't give out victory points, you can block ways. They're similar to the Gotham City Siren plants, I guess. You just kind of throw them in blockages, etc., because they don't give out victory points, so who cares if they die? And they're surprisingly sturdy with 6 endurance each. They are automatically hit, however, because they're defense 1, but, you know, well, not automatically hit if you roll a 1, but still. Anyway, that is going to do it for this battle report. I hope you enjoyed. I think the Teen Titans are going to see one more showing in this session, so we'll probably record them against one more different crew, and then we'll mix up the board a little bit for the time after that. More battle reports are coming though, 40k as well as Batman, as well as many contrast paint videos in which a lot of the Teen Titan models and Professor Pig featured. Thank you very much for watching though, and we'll see you in the future for some more battle reports. Ta-ta for now.